What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the final announcement of the Sugo-fest right before it comes out. So this time tomorrow, part 1 of the Sugo-fest will indeed be live. I will be live streaming as well over on the Twitch channel. We'll be doing a handful of multis. I'll probably do 10 multis on part 1. And then kind of gauge where we're at that point. So that's cool, right? So the Sugo-fest starts tomorrow. We're going to get to the structure of the Sugo-fest in just a moment. Before we do that, there is a bunch of other information that I want to bring your attention to before we get to that. First of which, we have the announcement of the campaign. Basically, the only update here to the campaign that was pre-existing with Luffy Kuma is that they are mentioning that there is going to be another free multi on the Sugo-fest, which we already kind of knew about. The announcement of Grand Party, which is starting on October 3rd at 1900 PST. That start time is really annoying though, because if you have a look at the upcoming Blitz battle, that starts October 3rd at 1 AM PST time. So essentially, the Blitz battle will start, and then at news time that day, the Grand Party's out as well. So you do have to take time out of your day during the Blitz battle grind to actually go and play Grand Party for that short amount of time, which is a little frustrating. I'm not a big fan of that. So there's that. The new PKA starts on September 28th. There's like a ton of events happening. So PKA starting on September 28th. So the Sugo starts tomorrow, which will be the 26th. So you still have a couple of days to do pulls on either part 2 or part 3. When part 3 starts, I believe, is when the PKA will begin. So PKA will be featuring the bosses Dory and Broggy, but the free-to-play character for this month is going to be this brand new Luffy. So if you actually have a look at the sprite, and I have seen people were posting the special animation for this guy, it is Goggles Luffy, which is pretty fun. So this character here does have the potential ability of damage cap, which I don't know if you're ever going to use a free-to-play character to like potentially increase your damage cap. That seems a little silly to me, unless if this character is absolutely insane. Captain ability here will get -1 cooldown, 3.5 attack, reduces this character's own special bind by 6 turns, okay. He does have a super type, which is interesting. 2 of the following units, which is any Straw Hat, any Vegapunk. You've got Bartholomew Kuma, Law, and Kid as well. Jewelry Bonnie is also counted in that too. Interesting. But the effect itself is going to completely remove his own despair, reduces special charge time for himself by 1, changes his own slot into strength, applies the strength territory for 1 turn. Okay, fine. Special ability will reduce everyone's special bind by 6 turns. Boosts crew's base attack by 1250 for 1 turn if you have 3 or more worst gen on the crew. Reduces all enemies' rainbow shield. Damage reduction based on slot effects by 2 turns, which is pretty cool, but 2 turns isn't really a crazy amount. And if 5 or more Straw Hats, Worst Gen, or Egghead are on the team, Free Spirit Advantageous Class Effect buff by 1.5. I guess, you know, for a free-to-play character, like if you're just starting the game, you're just trying to get a foothold into Treasure Cruise, it's not a bad free-to-play character to get, I suppose. He does resist Special Bind, which makes a ton of sense. He's got a ton of tags. And as we said, the damage cap potential ability, which I don't understand why a free-to-play character even has this. This honestly just feels like a waste of space. I literally don't understand it. His support effect doesn't really do anything, and he is focused on strength characters in Rumble. I mean, again, let's be real, strength very competitive right now. I don't think this character is really going to make a dent into that strength team, but again, if you're just getting a foothold in the game, I suppose potentially might find a way to use him, so makes sense. We have a new Assault Rumble, which is also starting September 28th, 1900 PST time, which is the same time that the PKA goes live. So the Assault Rumble, it actually go through which bosses are here. You've got the characters which are boosted, of course, which give you more points. Okay, so you've got a Shanks boss, which they take more damage from Dex and more damage from Powerhouse, less damage from Strength. So versus the Shanks boss, they want you to use St. Peter, Jupiter. And then for Akainu, they take more damage from Sai, more from Slasher, and then less from Strength X Quick. So that one, they want you to use Nusjuro. And then the Whitebeard boss, they take more damage from Int and Striker, less damage from Strength X Quick. So for that boss, they want you to use Saint J. Garcia Saturn. So you can see what's going on here. They want you to use all 3 of those characters in these fights, or just build teams around using Dex Powerhouse. Dex Powerhouse is a very solid team, so that's not going to be difficult to do. You got Science Slasher, which you can build a pretty good team with, and then Int and Striker also have relatively good team comps. Against all bosses, though, they take 20% more damage from Navy and 30% more damage from World Government. So yeah, if you're using those 5 Elder characters, man, you're just going to be doing a ton of additional damage with those characters. I know that J. Garcia Saturn is going to be an absolute beast in the Whitebeard fight. We can already say that for certain. Okay, so that's Assault Rumble, which is starting on the 28th. We have the Blitz battle, which we kind of mentioned briefly, starting on October 3rd, 1 a.m. PST time, which is the normal start time for treasure maps, I do believe. So Blitz battles are pretty straightforward. There is going to be a website associated with this event as well. Essentially what you do is you build a team with as many point boosters as you possibly can, and then each item that you drop during the Blitz battle fight gets a point value associated to it, as it's shown here. And then depending on your multiplier of your team, so if you have like all these top point boosters, you can see that these legends give you 2.25 times points. Again, however many items you drop, you get the points, you multiply it, it makes sense. And essentially, this island is here, between this time period here, it's like, what is it, like 50 hours or something like that? It's something like that. It's here for basically 2 days. And during that 2-day period, you want to run as much of this as you possibly can to get higher in the rankings. However, if you don't have like the max point boosted team, it's very difficult to reach the top ranks. So look, it is what it is, right? Anyways, so that's the Blitz battle, and now we can get to the Sugo Fest, which I know it's exactly what everyone wanted to hear about. So the Sugo Fest starting tomorrow, 15% chance to get a legend, and you got the 3 new rare recruits, as I kind of mentioned here as well. Hound, Urban, Pomsky, we already did a breakdown of that earlier today. We also have the 2 new legends, of course. So let's go ahead and have a look at this Sugo Fest. Part 1 tomorrow, Part 2 the day after that, Part 3 the day after that. So this is breaking down the step details. So Part 1 of the Sugo Fest, like most of these Super Sugo Fests, most of the time, it only really is good up until the 10th multi. You can see the 10th multi there, where every wanted poster in that 10th pull will have a 50% chance to be a legend. So on average, you should be getting at least 5 legends in that multi. You can get a little bit more, you can definitely get less. And then you've got the 6th multi along the way is a rate boosted legend, which is pretty cool. And then you got 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8 are all guaranteed legend steps as well. So those first 10 multis, you are getting a ton of legends, not only all of those guaranteed legends, but then in the middle of the multi with a 15% chance, you should on average be getting 1 to 2 legends every single multi. So, you know, and especially when you get to that 10th multi where you have a very, very high chance of securing a lot of legends. So the thing about Part 1 with, again, most of these Super Sugo Fests is that all legends are available. So it does mention it here somewhere, right here in this top paragraph. It says, in this Super Sugo Fest, Part 1 includes all Super Sugo Fest only characters until December 14th, which is essentially any of them except for the new Quick Luffy. He will still be on his own Sugo Fest, and all Sugo Fest exclusive characters from standard Sugo Fests until April 28th. And then out of all of those legends on Part 1, 20 of them are going to be like selected, like boosted legends, including Super Sugo Fest exclusive Roger Rayleigh Gaban, and Whitebeard and Ace are also going to be boosted. And then for Part 2 and 3, instead of having all legends boosted and then a small amount of them raid boosted, they restrict the pool of available legends in Part 2 and 3 to only 30 characters. So if you want to hone in on a very specific legend, Part 2 and Part 3 are much better. But if there is a ton of legends that you're missing, going in on Part 1 is not a terrible idea, okay? So let's actually have a look at the pools, right? So for Part 1, yeah, as we said, a ton of legends are available, but a select pool of them that we'll see here are going to be boosted, with having a slightly higher chance to be pulled. So for Part 1, these are the boosted Super Sugos. You have the 2 new ones that are dropping, Jupiter and Nusjuro, and then you got Roger Rayleigh Gaban, Whitebeard and Ace. All of these units you definitely want to get your hands on. I mean, Whitebeard and Ace isn't that great, but in context with the Quick Luffy that is just released, if you have the Quick Luffy, you probably want to get Whitebeard and Ace because they work so well together. And then obviously Roger Rayleigh Gaban is a beast. Very good in Rumble, and just a really good unit in general. And obviously the 2 new units are very strong. And then as for the normal legends that are available here. So again, every other normal legend is here, but these are the ones that are higher chance to be pulled on Part 2. So Mihawk is very good. Christmas Uta is fantastic. The Giants are okay. Quick Jinbei, very, very good to use with the new Quick Luffy. So if you got the Quick Luffy from the previous banner, you probably want Jinbei. But outside of that, Jinbei isn't really that great. Outside of those units, who else is really good here? I mean, the Int Queen is pretty decent still. Legend Garp right there at the bottom. He has some pretty interesting usefulness when you super evolve him, and his support effect is very good. Legend Marco is good if you don't have a good EXP boosting captain. The rest of them are characters that you don't really use all that much. So this is just showing that all of the other Super Sugo-fest characters are going to be available, including Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. Now, when you get to a limited pool character, what step is that on part 1? Part 1, which is a limited pool. Limited pool, Super Sugo-fest only character. So it's the 30th pool on part 1, it's pretty rough, limited pool, Super Sugo-fest only character. So if you go all the way to the 30th pool on part 1, you're not guaranteed to get one of the 2 new units. You can still pull, the Rocks Pirates, Saturn, Strength Luffy from New Year's, Shanks vs. Kid, and 10th Anniversary Shanks. I mean, all of these Super Sugo-fests are amazing and very good, but when you're really looking for the new units, it can be a little tough, right? So that's, I guess this Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji is also boosted. Okay, so you could potentially pull these guys as well, which is kind of wild. There's just a ton of available units you could potentially get from the 30th pool, which does make it a little rough. Okay, so that's for part 1. For part 2, remember, there's only 30 characters available for part 2, and then 30 other characters for part 3. As for part 2, you got Nusjuro. He is the character that is highlighted here, meaning that, so for part 1, the chance to get Nusjuro and Peter is actually lower than part 2, right? So if you specifically want, Nusjuro, you go to part 2. If you specifically want Jupiter, you go to part 3. So for part 2, you got Nusjuro, Rocks Pirates, Kizaru, amazing, Strength Luffy, Blackbeard vs. Law, Luffy vs. Kaido, who is amazing, Shanks is good, and then you got Quick Enma Zoro, and then you got the 2 Luffys at the back there with the Psy one and the Dex one. Probably not the best, right? Probably not the best. As for the generic legends that are available on this one, I mean, it looks pretty rough. Who's a highlight here? Usopp and Lilith are pretty decent still, very good in Pirate Rumble. Sai Sanji is good in Pirate Rumble as well, building that mono Sai versus Int. Sai Uta, I guess, is okay. Int Jack is okay. Wano Law is a little outdated. Hiyori is really good too, but man, the generic legends for part 2, oof, yeah, pretty rough in my opinion. The limited pool Sugo rare character, what step is that for part 2? Remember, part 2 is better if you're looking for a specific legend, but what they do to offset that is typically the pool, the step ups are much worse. So a limited pool Sugo rare is 5, 8, 25, and then you have a super limited pool on 10 and 20. And then you get the guaranteed unit part 2 or part 3, depending on what you're pulling. So for part 2, we have the limited pool here. Again, like, some of them are good, obviously, but they definitely sprinkle in a couple of bad ones. And then the super limited pool, which I believe was the 10th or the 20th pool, is when you get one of these 8 given characters. So the fact that they've put in Daz Bones, like Usopp and Lilith and Carrot in the Sulongs, and even that Galaxy Impact Garp in here, it just really waters down this specific pool of characters. It just feels really rough. I mean, obviously Kizaru, Rocks, and Nusjuro, you want to have all of those units, very, very good. But man, they definitely diluted this part really badly. Let's move over to part 3. So part 3, you have these other Super Sugo-fests that are available. Now this one actually looks kind of good because, like, honestly speaking, the only one that you actively probably don't really want to pull is like Roger Odin, Roger Whitebeard, and then maybe Yamato Kaido, but the rest of them are all like really, really good. If you're in like a veteran player, you probably have your Psy Gear 5 Luffy like already pretty well invested. They even gave one out for free, so there's that. But I mean, that entire top row of like St. Peter, you got Jay Garcia Saturn, you've got the New Year's Sabo, Shanks versus Kid, Oiran Yamato, Luffy Zoro Sanji. Like, that's a pretty good pool of Super Sugo-fest exclusive characters. All benefit greatly from having dupes invested into them, for sure. As for the generic legends, this one is, it's also not great, but you do have Alba. You've got the Halloween Uta, which is still very solid. You've got the sword characters, which is Kujaku, Hibari, and Groose. Very good in Rumble, I would say. You have the Dex Nami there on the second row, also relatively good in Pirate Rumble. You've got the Bonnie on the right-hand side there. She's got a good support effect. Int Alba in the middle bottom there. He's okay. Yeah, it's not a great pool of normal legends. The fact that the Dex Garp and Figureland Garling are not featured on these banners really hurts, because that would put the values of these banners much higher, especially like even the summer units like the Yamato, Otama, and the Strength Nami. Having those characters featured here would also be nice, but the fact that those units aren't featured, it does make it much more rough. The limited pool here, and you have the super limited step. So on the 10th or the 20th pool, having access to one of these units does feel a little weird. The fact that they've put like the Sanji and Nami character, that really hurts the pool. I mean, Halloween Uta, nice to have for sure, but you don't really need dupes invested into them. Alba, I guess, is okay with dupes. And then like the sword character, having dupes in them isn't really that important either. So yeah, this one, they all feel kind of rough, honestly. I really don't think there is like an overarching part that I've seen so far in this Sugo-fest that it's like, yeah, you have to pull on that one, that's the best. Like, if we went back to the Kuma and Luffy Sugo-fest, by far and away, part 2 was the best part to pull, because Kuma's part, not only was Kuma that bad, but they really made the legends on part 2 just amazing compared to what they had on part 3. This time around, it does feel much more balanced. So the way that I kind of see it is like, it really just depends on what you're missing. Like, if there is a specific legend on part 2 or part 3 that you really, really want to get your hands on, just go for that part, honestly. Unless if specifically you want to try and build this 5 Elder team, then your best bet is to go on part 3 to get Saturn and to get Jupiter. And then once you have those guys, if you have gems left over, you could go ahead and wait to go onto part 2 to get your hands on Nusjuro. But remember, like, Nusjuro is kind of built to be like the crewmate, like the sub on the team, whereas Saturn and Jupiter are kind of built to be both of the captains. So it is interesting to see. I would have probably put Jupiter by himself and then put Saturn with Nusjuro. I feel like that would have made more sense, but anyways, it is what it is. So in my opinion, I don't think there's a bad part, but I don't really think there's an overarching good part either. So just in totality, you should probably pull just where you're missing the most units. As I said, I will personally be doing 10 multis on part 1 just to see where we're at, and from there we'll kind of pivot to see, maybe we'll pull on part 2 or part 3 depending on what happens. Hopefully I can get at least one of the 2 new Super Sugo-fests within the first 10 multis, and then I can just invest the rest of the gems on part 2 or part 3, whichever one I didn't get right. So that's going to be my approach to this Sugo-fest, but let me know your thoughts and opinions about this one down below in the comment section. I'd be interested to see how you guys view this Sugo-fest. I definitely think, like, for sure, in the first part of the Sugo-fest with Luffy and Kuma in part 1, it was very clear cut in terms of where it was the best way to use your gems, but this time around, not really so much. So hopefully you enjoyed the video though. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.